Okay, good evening. Welcome to this meeting of Development Management Committee. I'll just make everyone aware. Is it echo? Yeah. Can you hear me? No, it's no good. No good.
Mine's on.
Yeah. Have we got our fixer? Somebody that knows more about technologies than I do.
Seems all right.
Yeah. It depends. It depends. Oh, yeah. Is that okay? Okay. It seems to have worked. Well, so welcome to this meeting of Development Management Committee. Just for the information, we will be breaking at 6:20 till 7 to allow our colleagues, if they wish to participate, in the iftar prayers. I'll just read through the preliminaries first. The meeting this evening will be live streamed meeting to the public. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Would remote participants please use their hands up icon in the Teams to indicate they have a question? Please turn your camera and microphone on when addressing the committee and off when you're not speaking. Would members and officers please remember to switch their microphones on when speaking, off when they've finished speaking. Please speak directly into the microphone. And the other bits I don't think we need to go through. I'll just go to the evacuation procedure. Turn left, follow the green emergency exit signs to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St George's Square. Apologies for absence tonight.
Chair, I haven't received any.
Minutes of the 22nd of February.
Yeah, before you, Chair.
Okay, to sign those, no problem.
The apologies from Kashif Chowdhury.
From who?
Kashif Chowdhury.
Kashif Chowdhury.
Yeah. Okay.
He only said it's coming in late.
No, that was Raja Ahmed that was coming. Yeah, he's coming in.
Okay, thank you.
It's not an apology for Raja. Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act. Any declarations?
No.
Any disclosures of interest tonight?
No disclosures,
You can either
Chair.
call them now or when the item's called. Any urgent business?
No urgent business, Chair.
So we'll go straight on to the service issues. Item 7, page 1727, Hat Gardens, former Silver Street car park, Silver Street. Jonathan, are you with us? Are you there?
Thank you, Chair. I think we just have an issue with the PowerPoint at the moment.
Switch mine.
Okay. Good evening, members. This item relates to the installation of 5 suspended flamingos on the southern bank of the River Lee, with associated feature lighting. The applicant of the scheme is Luton Borough Council and has received an objection. Therefore, the application is required to be brought before the Development Management Committee to be determined. Members would have seen an update to this report relating to conditions, a consultee response from Historic England, and further officer considerations in view of this response. The update on the conditions relates to the addition of 2 conditions, one relating to lighting and the other relating to future maintenance of the proposal. In regard to the consultee response and the further considerations, I'll discuss these within the following relevant sections of the presentation. There are 3 technical consultees that were notified. All 3 responded. Local Highways Authority, who raised no objections. Beams, who raised no objections. Historic England did not object, but raised concerns of additional street furniture in the area and the impact this would have on the conservation area. They advised to reduce the number of structures. Given the nature of the site and proposal, the application was publicised by site notice and press notice. And in terms of the relevant site history, Obviously, the site was granted plan permission for the deculverting of the River Lee and forming a new public open space after demolition of the existing car park in July 2020. And the site has since had multiple conditions discharged by the local planning authority. The application site comprises the recently developed Hat Garden public open space on the northern side of Silver Street. The proposed flamingos will be located on the terraced retaining wall structure to the south of the bank of the river. The proposal seeks the addition of 5 pink flamingos, which would be suspended from steel arms that would be fixed into the second tier of the retaining wall structure on the southern bank of the river. They are the original modules used in the opening of the mall in the 1970s, which have been restored to the original condition. The flamingos and steel structures would be limited in size and scale and overall prominence. The steel structures would be akin to general street furniture, however, with the flamingos suspended from them, would create a unique art feature within the Platersley Conservation Area, which would generate interest and intrigue in this area and the greater creative quarter and town centre areas. This consideration is supported by the response from Beams, who noted that the proposal would provide a focal point and fun feature to the park and represent an enhancement to the conservation area. As previously noted, however, the concern from Historic England in regard to the proposal resulting in additional street furniture in the area and the impact this may have on the conservation area. The proposals, the proposed steel structures are approximately 4 metres in height, curved into the site, set down from street level by approximately 1.5 metres, and would be wholly within the curtilage of the Hat Gardens public open space. While they would be visible from the street scene of Bute Street and Silver Street, and akin to street furniture in terms of the colour and structure and texture of the steel structures, the proposal would be seen solely in the context of the overall design and character of Hat Gardens and not the wider street scene, and therefore would not be viewed as the same as other street furniture such as lampposts and telecommunications equipment. The proposal is undoubtedly an art installation, and there would be an obvious distinction between the proposal and other street furniture within the area, and therefore the proposal would not be seen as additional street furniture in the traditional sense. On this basis, while the concerns from Historic England are noted, the view is taken that the proposal would not result in material harm to the conservation area and would in fact preserve and enhance the unique and distinctive nature of the conservation area, Hat Gardens, town centre, and would therefore be consistent with the aims and objectives of the Platersley Conservation Area, Creative Quarter and town centre policies. A representation had been received, raising a number of concerns regarding the design of the proposal, its harm on the park and conservation area, and its impact on the memorial on the northern wall of the mall. It's noted that Beams considered the proposal to result in no material harm to the park and the conservation area, which, given the limited scale of the proposal within the conservation area, the LPA would agree with. Furthermore, Beams commented that it would have a positive impact on the conservation area, noting that the proposal would provide a focal point and fun feature which would be an enhancement to the conservation area. Regarding the impact on the memorial, given the relatively large and high level of the memorial, it's not considered that the proposal would screen the memorial, nor would it significantly detract passers-by from seeing the memorial, especially when walking southwards along Bute Street, whereby the memorial is more prominent than most other surrounding features. To conclude, the scheme offers no significant detrimental impacts upon the design, character, and street scene of Hat Gardens and its surroundings, or the amenities of adjoining buildings, occupiers, and the overall historic environment of the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'll open it up to questions. Can I just ask that the material the flamingos are made of was papier-mâché, I think the original ones, weren't they? How would they stand up to being outside? Because originally they were inside, away from the elements. So is there any maintenance plan?
I think they've been restored with a type of resin material to protect them. And obviously the maintenance condition will ensure that they're maintained to a reasonable standard.
Questions? Comment, Councillor Hussain?
Yeah, Chair, I think it would be a major positive development in the area and encourage families to come into the area. I think that part of the town, particularly the creative quarter, does need, with the opening of the river and all that, this would be added value to that, and I would strongly support that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Franks?
Yeah, sorry about this, but I just can't resist the temptation. It's typical of the council's attitude to planning applications for its own projects. It actually put them up long before the planning application came to the committee. Absolutely typical. They do it all the time. They treat the Town and Country Planning Act as if it was an administrative inconvenience. I don't know when Luton Council ever submitted a planning application which wasn't approved. I just find it completely unsatisfactory. The council should follow the same rules it expects everybody else to follow. I know they've taken them down again, but that was because of a problem with the with the fixings. It was nothing to do with the planning consent.
When they disappeared, they'd flown away. Councillor Alia Khan, your comment, and welcome to Development Management Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I don't understand why we have certain grievances in projects such as this, which bring in such a huge element of heritage and history back into the town, which I know that a lot of people would love to see. So I do really welcome this provision and would like to say a massive well done.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, Chair. Do you think it's the same flamingos we used to have in the shopping centre? Anyway, somebody has come to me about a concern of children might be falling in the water if there's not some sort of railing put in. I know it might not make it look very good, but someone has come to me about concerns.
Yeah, I understand there was a safety audit done, wasn't there? On the site, could anybody help with that? I understand there was. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. It'd be covered. It'd be covered. Any further comments? There'll be no further comments. We'll go to the vote. I'll propose condition that the actual application is granted. Is that seconded? And we'll go to the vote. Eunice.
Four.
Councillor Ahmed. Oh, it's not good. Councillor A. Ali.
4.
4. Councillor Bridget.
4.
Councillor Campbell. Councillor Franks.
4.
Councillor M. Hussain. Councillor Alia Khan.
4.
Councillor Masood.
4.
Councillor Taylor.
4.
No, Chair, that's.
Yeah, I take that's carried. That was unanimous. So permission has been granted. I think it's 18:14 now, and I think we'll break now rather than follow on the other item of Pro Logis, which would take some time. So I think we'll break now and reconvene at 20 to 7. Okay, thank you. Alia?
I just wanted to say thank you for taking in the considering the Muslim colleagues in here today for allowing them to break the fast. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
I think everyone's back now. Understand? Okay, we'll with everyone back, we'll reconvene and we'll go on to page 28, Prologis. Is the applicant's representative, is it Caroline Musker, in person? Are you around? Yes. Okay. I'll get the Clive to introduce the report, and then I'll ask you to come forward and speak for up to 5 minutes. Okay, and maybe answer questions from the members. Okay, Clive.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, just getting the presentation up again. Right, so this is a hybrid planning application. It's seeking planning permission for the phased demolition of all existing buildings and structures and the comprehensive employment-led redevelopment of the site for the construction of flexible employment floor space, which would be in use classes E, G, B2 or B8, with ancillary office floor space, an on-site training facility and all associated infrastructure works, access arrangements, internal road network, parking and hard and soft landscaping. The application has come to committee as it is a major planning application. There is an update on this application as per the written update report circulated. There have been recent responses to the application from both the Lead Local Flood Authority and the Council's Archaeological Advisor. As per the update report, the Archaeological Advisor stated that there would be no archaeological constraint to the proposed development. Additionally, the Lead Local Flood Authority have now removed their objection to the proposed development, as the additional information has confirmed that surface water from the proposed development can be managed using permeable paving on the proposed parking areas and restricting surface water discharge to 15 litres per second to the River Lee, which passes through the site. Conditions are required in relation to the detailed design, management and maintenance of the surface water drainage, a method statement for interim and temporary drainage measures during the construction phases, and the requirement to provide a verification report before occupation to confirm that the drainage construction has been undertaken in accordance with the approved surface water drainage scheme. Further, there has been no further response from the Environment Agencies yet, so the recommendation needs to change to that specified in the update report, i.e. that the planning permission should not be granted until confirmation is received from the Environment Agency that their objection is removed. Finally, there are some minor points of correction and clarification. Firstly, paragraph 29 of the report, which should refer to Schedule 2.10a of the Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations. Secondly, paragraphs 52 and 56 of the report refer to a negligible impact on the nearest listed buildings. For clarification, there would be no impact to listed buildings in the vicinity of the application site, and as such, Section 66 of the Listed Buildings and Conservation Area Act would not be engaged. Finally, references to public art being inserted into the Section 106 agreement can be removed, as this issue is suitably addressed by Condition 29, the public art condition set out in Appendix A of the committee report. So I'll just take you through some of the slides. This is the application site outlined in red, which the applicant refers to as Prologis Park, and is the site of Griffin House, the adjacent technical centre, and the current home of the BWI Group on part of the site. The site is bounded by Manor Road Park, Windmill Road, Osborne Road and Park Street. So as mentioned, this planning application is a hybrid application, which means that it is a part of full application and part outline. You can see on this slide that the western parcel of land is in full, so all details, all matters are for consideration in this element. The eastern parcel of land, whose layout is indicatively shown on this slide, which shows the building DC8 and the hub, is in outline form. And on this part of the site, all matters are reserved. This slide gives an example of the elevations of the buildings proposed. In this instance, these elevations are of the unit DC3 in the northwestern corner of the site. And this slide demonstrates the landscape master plan for the site and gives an indication of the significant amount of tree planting throughout the site and particularly alongside the restored river channel. Finally, the applicant has provided some computer-generated images of the proposal, and the first is taken from the main access point onto Windmill Road, looking into the site. Then we have looking into the site from close to Park Street, showing the pedestrian and cycle access into the site. This slide shows a CGI looking into the site from Osborne Road and the new pedestrian and cycle access next to the river. And this demonstrates the restored river channel running through the site with a wildflower meadow on the right hand side and pedestrian and cycle access on the left hand side. And finally, we've got a view of the river and the active travel link further into the site. Members will see from paragraph 22 of this item that the main planning considerations relate to the principle of development, consideration of the environmental impact assessment, the impact on the character and appearance of the area, the impact on neighbouring amenity, transport, parking implications, and issues relating to biodiversity, ecology and trees, sustainability, economic development and job creation, and planning obligations. The application site is denoted as a Category A employment area in the adopted local plan, where Policy LLP 14 applies. Policy LLP 14 supports the redevelopment, extension and intensification of Category A employment areas, subject to proposals not having an unacceptable amenity or traffic implications, an appropriate size and range of units being provided, and ensuring appropriate levels of parking are provided. So the proposal is seeking planning permission for up to 34,250 square metres of flexible industrial and logistics floor space across use classes EG, B2 and B8. The current proposal would seek to redevelop the site and intensify the use of the site, going from a floor area of approximately 28,250 square metres in the current buildings on the site up to the 34,250 square metres as mentioned. The proposal is considered to provide a suitable size and range of units ranging from 1,053 square metres in DC5 up to a possible 19,792 square metres in DC8 that would come forward in phase 2. This range of floor space is considered suitable to attract a wide range of occupiers to the site and responds well to the current market demand for this type of floor space. Criterion 2 of Policy LLP 14 is therefore considered to be satisfied in this regard. The other criteria relating to impacts on amenity, traffic and parking are considered later in this presentation, but these have been considered to be acceptable in the committee report. The proposal to redevelop the existing employment site for new employment generating uses, utilising the site more intensively, is considered to be acceptable in principle. In relation to the environmental impact assessment, the report has carefully considered the relevant chapters of the environmental statement, and the conclusions of the chapters have been noted and have been used to make the relevant assessment of the application. With regard to the impact of the proposal on the character and appearance of the area, the proposed buildings are evidently relatively large structures designed specifically to accommodate modern requirements for industrial or storage uses. The height of the buildings is driven by operators' requirements to have sufficient headroom, and the buildings would range in height from 14 metres and 16 metres in phase 1 to 22 metres in phase 2. Whilst large buildings, the proposed buildings would utilise either a single, double or triple curved roof form to seek to minimise the overall impact. Given this, the proposed buildings are considered to be acceptable in scale and are also similar in scale to existing buildings on the site, which range from 3 to 4 stories in height. In terms of appearance, the buildings are evidently functional, but they do utilise a pleasant curved roof profile and provide glazed office features on key elevations to provide active frontages to the public realm areas within the site. Accordingly, the buildings are considered to be of a suitable design quality. In terms of landscaping, the landscaping of the scheme has been an integral element of the design of the proposal as it has evolved and seeks to put the River Lee at the heart of the development. The landscape master plan for the site seeks to encourage biodiversity and habitat creation, as well as providing a high quality natural context to the built elements, whilst removing invasive and non-native species. The creation of a linear park alongside the river is a specific welcome feature of the proposal. These elements of the application can be drawn together to make an assessment of the impact of the proposal on the wider character and appearance of the area. Firstly, the scale and mass of the buildings now proposed will not be dissimilar to the scale of the 3- and 4-storey existing buildings on the site, although it is recognised that they would cover a greater area of the site. It is, however, considered that the site can accommodate the scale and mass of the buildings proposed without adversely affecting the character and appearance of the area. Coupled with the quality appearance proposed through the detailed design and materiality of the buildings and the integral landscaping, it is considered that a high quality design proposal can be achieved on this site that would have an acceptable impact on the character and appearance of the area in accordance with policy LLP 25 of the local plan. In relation to the impact of the proposal on heritage assets, it is considered that the proposal would have no impact on listed buildings in the vicinity of the site and the nearest conservation areas. Additionally, there would be a negligible impact on non-designated heritage assets, and the proposal would avoid adversely affecting the area of local landscape value that lies to the south of the site. In relation to the impact on neighbouring amenity, the report sets out that with the relevant conditions in relation to lighting and noise, it is considered that the operational impacts of the proposed development would be suitably controlled. Given this, the first criterion of policy LLP 14 is considered to be met in that the proposal would not result in unacceptable amenity implications. In relation to access, highway and parking implications, the Highway Authority has raised no issue with the current proposal, subject to the conditions and requirements of legal agreements as set out in the report. Additionally, the level of parking has been considered to be appropriate by the Highway Authority, and at this level will still incentivise using alternative forms of transport to the private car in accordance with the aims of the travel plan. Thus, this level of parking is considered to be appropriate for the proposed uses in this location and sufficient to cater for the anticipated parking demand generated by users of the proposed development, but also restrictive enough to incentivise using alternative forms of transport to the car. In relation to cycle parking, the Council does not have minimum cycle parking standards for B use classes, but states that non-residential developments attracting significant numbers should be agreed with the Council. Within phase 1, a total of 66 cycle parking spaces would be provided in secure bike stores located outside the front of each unit for ease of access. Cycle parking for phase 2 would be determined at the reserve matter stage and would ultimately depend upon the precise mix and quantum of floor space proposed. The demand for further cycle parking can be provided through reviews of the travel plan and additional facilities provided if considered to be necessary. Further, each unit would have storage and showering facilities for employees choosing to cycle, which is welcomed. Drawing these issues together, the proposal is considered to comply with the remaining part of criterion I of policy LLP 14, in that it would not result in unacceptable traffic implications. Additionally, the proposal would also satisfy criterion 3 of policy LLP 14, in that it would provide an appropriate level of parking. Finally, utilising the existing but to be modified access onto Windmill Road for all commercial traffic, the proposal would connect directly with the strategic highway network, the A505, in accordance with policy LLP 13 of the local plan. In relation to biodiversity and ecology, the proposal would make a significant contribution to urban greening and biodiversity in the local area. With a suitably worded condition to ensure these ecological improvements, the proposal is considered to be acceptable and to accord with the principle of policy LLP 28 of the local plan to protect and promote biodiversity. With regard to sustainability and climate change, the proposal would meet the BREEAM Excellent standard. Meeting the BREEAM Excellent standard far exceeds the Council's BREEAM Good standard set out in policy LLP 37 of the local plan, and the commitment to this is welcomed. The BREEAM targets would be achieved via the implementation of sustainable systems for energy, water, management, ecology, waste, pollution, and the use and choice of materials. Overall, the proposed sustainability measures incorporated within the scheme would meet and exceed the standards required at both local and national level. It is considered that the proposed development will provide a modern, resource-efficient, sustainable scheme that responds positively to Policy LLP 37. A suitable condition to capture these measures is recommended to be attached to any grant of planning permission in Appendix A. In relation to economic development and job creation, the report sets out the economic benefits of the proposal and that it would be able to support up to 450 full-time equivalent jobs directly as a result of the proposed development and create up to 66 million annually in gross value added to the local economy. The scheme would also provide a benefit to the local economy and employment in the short to medium term through the construction process. It is found that the construction of the proposed development equates to approximately 155 person years of construction employment, which based on a 2-year build period would equate to approximately 75 full-time equivalent jobs during this construction period. Further, a specific benefit of the proposal would be the creation of the hub. This would be delivered in phase 2 of the development and would comprise up to 300 metres squared of floor space, falling within use classes E, G and F1. It would comprise of a bespoke training facility in the northern corner of the site. Whilst the precise details of the hub's operation are still to be confirmed and defined, the applicant anticipates that the hub will serve as a dedicated space for the provision of fully funded education and training opportunities with a focus on the logistics sector. This would then ultimately provide a pipeline of skilled individuals to work within the logistics sector, thereby contributing to increasing both employment and economic productivity within Luton. As the operation of the hub would be funded through service charges generated by occupiers of the wider site, it would also be available for occupiers of the site to use as additional external meeting or training space. In relation to this aspect of the proposal specifically, the Council's Economic Development Team have stated that the training hub would support the Council's Employment and Skills 5-year strategy 2022 to 2027 to deliver key skills in fast-growing sectors that currently struggle to recruit, and they are therefore fully supportive. Overall, it is therefore considered that the hub would make a positive impact in Luton in terms of both economic growth and social value by promoting the advancement of skills, expertise and capabilities within the sector. These significant economic benefits are strong material considerations that weigh in favour of the application and would also accord with Policy LLP 13 of the local plan, which supports the delivery of sustainable economic growth. Finally, in relation to planning obligations, £35,000 is to be secured to provide pedestrian infrastructure and improvements in Osborne Road, and a local labour goods and services requirement is to be included into any accompanying Section 106 agreement. So in conclusion, the report demonstrates that the proposal is acceptable in principle. The redevelopment of a Category A employment area that would result in additional commercial floor spaces supported by Policy LLP 14, subject to not resulting in unacceptable amenity or traffic implications, providing an appropriate size and range of units and providing appropriate levels of parking. The report sets out that this proposal would meet all of these criteria such that it would be in compliance with Policy LLP 14. Additionally, utilising the existing Wimble Road access for all commercial vehicles will ensure that the proposal meets the policy requirement of Policy LLP 13 for warehousing to be well connected to the strategic highway network via the A505. The current proposal would bring forward a highly sustainable development site and significant employment generation. Additionally, through the consideration of the various sections of the committee report, it has been demonstrated that the proposal would have an acceptable impact on the character and appearance of the area. It would have an acceptable impact on neighbouring amenity. The highways impact, as well as the specific access points and parking levels, are acceptable. The proposal would provide specific ecological and biodiversity enhancements. The proposal responds well to climate change issues and provides a highly sustainable form of development. And finally, the proposal would provide for significant job creation and sustainable economic growth, complying with Policy LLP 13 of the local plan and the council's wider aspirations. For these reasons, it is considered that the development comprises a sustainable and high quality form of development. On this basis, it's recommended that plan permission is granted subject to the conditions set out in the committee report, the additional conditions set out earlier in the verbal update, the amended recommendation and the completion of a Section 106 agreement as per the heads of terms set out in the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Clive. Caroline, would you like to come forward, please? And you've got up to 5 minutes to speak, and there'll be a reminder before your 5 minutes are up, and then members may wish to ask questions of your application. Okay, so away you go.
Good evening, my name is Caroline Musker. I am our UK Head of Planning at Prologis. We fully support the recommendation of the Planning Officer in directing you to approve our development proposals. This evening, firstly, I would like to tell you a bit more about Prologis and then talk about the fantastic impact we will have in Luton if planning permission is granted. Prologis is the largest global real estate developer of logistics and industrial floor space. What makes us an exceptional partner is the fact that we have access to over 3,500 customers globally, and this enables us to bring forward a wider variety of exciting occupiers on the site. This will enable us to unlock the site at pace and deliver the investment in the borough. We have the resources and experience required to deliver this large and complex project. Given that we retain a long-term interest in our sites, the Council can be confident that any planning permission that is granted today will be both delivered and well managed in the long term by the team at Prologis who are here today. In terms of the fantastic impacts, we are really excited about the redevelopment of this site. It has a rich industrial history, having accommodated Vauxhall for many decades. We've worked really hard with our internal team of experts to open up and celebrate the River Lee as a key feature by providing a linear park through the centre of the site, which will enhance accessibility into Luton Town Centre. Our development will maximise opportunities to enhance this part of the River Lee, improve the ecology, provide additional tree planting, and deliver a net gain in biodiversity. We are working on a heritage and public art strategy at the site that reflects the site's long-term identity and history. Our scheme will also deliver a sustainable future. Our projects are net zero in construction and deliver energy efficient industrial and logistics units, employing the Fabric First efficiency measures. Our roofs allow for the installation of photovoltaic panels as a source of on-site renewable energy generation. We'll provide electrical vehicle charging facilities on car parking spaces, and we will target BREEAM level excellent across all units, which goes significantly beyond the policy expectations. Overall, we will deliver a high quality scheme that everyone can be proud of. We are proposing to make a significant financial investment in developing this site. In terms of economic impact, this represents a £30 million investment in construction, is expected to generate over £66 million in GVA, as well as providing £660,000 in business rates every year. We will create around 75 new jobs during construction, and once operational, our customers will deliver around 440 jobs on the site. Those jobs could meet a wide range of occupations. The logistics industry is a sector packed with exciting opportunities, providing roles in business operations, digital and engineering. There are growing opportunities for people with skills and talents in robotics, data, design, digitisation, marketing, sale and global distribution. We have been surveying the employees of our building for the last 15 years so that we can understand the types of jobs in our buildings. Our latest data shows that there is a wide variety of jobs. 25% of jobs are office-based jobs with roles described above, as well as the more traditional operative roles. We're committed to investing in people through our Prologis warehousing and logistics training programme.
1 minute left.
In phase 2 of the development, we will deliver a dedicated training facility known as the Hub, which follows the successful integration of a similar yet larger award-winning facility at Prologis Durft. The hub will serve as a dedicated space for the provision of a fully funded education and training opportunity. It will be the first one of its kind in your borough, providing a pipeline of skilled individuals to work within the logistics sector. The hub will be funded through the service charges generated by the occupiers of the wider site. It will be available for occupiers of the site to use as additional external meeting and training space, and it will also provide a focal for placemaking activity at the site. We urge you to support the recommendation made by your planning officers to grant planning permission for this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions by members? Councillor Franks.
Yeah, thank you. The concern I always have with applications like this is that you never know how much, and there is a question coming, I promise you. You never know how much warehousing you're going to end up with. And whether you call it warehousing, distribution, or logistics, or even fulfillment centres, it's still warehousing, and it produces lots and lots of traffic and not very much employment. Modern technology coming into warehousing these days reduces the employment factor massively. My question to you is, what would be your attitude to a limit on the amount of warehousing that results from the development, whether that be through condition or through the Section 106 agreement?
Is that a question to me? Yeah.
I'm sorry, it is a long question, but I wanted to set the scene and the reason why I'm asking the question. And yes, it is addressed to you.
Yeah. So in relation to your question, as the developer of this project, we would not appreciate that kind of a condition attached to a scheme. We have a very balanced portfolio of occupiers where we would look to bring forward both logistics and industrial floor space. We made the application on the basis of the fact that we were policy compliant in delivering a mixture of B2 and B8 development. And in accordance with the policies of your plan, we believe that we are fully compliant, and bringing forward a wider variety of occupiers is about jobs and investment and economic recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Lee Bridgen.
Thank you. I've just asked some clarification really about the solar panels. I think you briefly mentioned it in your presentation. The report and the document in the application mentions that only that the buildings have to be structurally sound enough to be able to hold the solar panels. So I just want to see clarification. So will these solar panels be installed by the developer, or will it be an expectation that the occupiers would put the solar panels in? And if so, would there be any kind of mandatory requirement for them to do so, or condition for them to do so before they occupy?
So as a business, we have targets for achieving net zero, and that is really important to us. ESG is a really important part of our business. In terms of bringing forward photovoltaics, our roofs are designed to accommodate them, and it's something that we very much want to bring forward. We are seeking to bring them forward on this application, but we tend to work with the occupiers in terms of the amount of energy that they want on the buildings. And we're moving towards not only having buildings that are net zero in construction. We've been building buildings that are net zero in construction for the last 14 years. We're now moving towards bringing buildings forward that are net zero in operation. So we essentially would like to bring forward a building in the future that essentially generates sustainable power on its own.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
Questions by members to the officer? Councillor Hussain.
can I ask the highway manager, in terms of the parking spaces and the job they are saying, I mean, do you feel that there is sufficient parking spaces? Because that area of the town has got already a major problem in terms of parking, particularly, you know, the development on either side, whether it's in Windmill Road or in the Park Town. So, I mean, this would be a concern to members in terms of the parking spaces if they were to take and to move into the residence area.
Yeah, if I may answer, Chair. We are comfortable with the level of parking provided given the nature of the development. It is it's an interesting one to assess. It's certainly policy compliant. What we rely on in these cases is the provision of the travel plan to promote alternative means of transport. So if parking does become an issue, then we work with the travel plan coordinator at the site. Our own travel plan coordinator will work with them as well to promote other forms and ensure that situation doesn't occur. But certainly there is a significant amount of parking on the site, and we're comfortable with that.
In terms of the contribution, did I miss somewhere? Is there any contribution towards the travel plan or anything of that, or improvement within the area in terms of the parking?
There's a contribution of £35,000 towards improving a footway route, on Osborne Road in particular, and that links to the bus stop that's at the site as well. So it promotes further public transport use, and it becomes more accessible to the occupiers of the site.
Okay. Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Sain. Yes, Councillor.
In terms of the development, I mean, I do have, you know, warehousing, and that is a concern in the longer term, because we did have a very vibrant area of employment in that area. But if it is, you know, the investment coming in and it does create that job, it is welcome. But I think it's something that we ought to be keeping in mind in terms of the whole area that was major employment area for the whole of Luton, you know, with the Vauxhall site, and historically this was where most of the people in Luton had unemployment. So I think even though I'd welcome any investment coming into Luton, but this is something that I would, you know, but I would certainly support the
Councillor Franks.
This site is one of a number of sites around the town where, to be honest, it's very difficult to imagine any kind of development that wouldn't be an improvement. The applicants have gone to some trouble to offer an attractive environment for the development. We always take a risk on employment numbers, especially with something that could end up with quite a significant amount of warehousing. I do intend to support the application, but for Sunny's benefit, we intend to get the Overview and Scrutiny Board to have a look at the legal possibilities for maximising employment and minimising warehousing on planning applications of this kind. We recognise there are legal constraints, and indeed there are commercial necessities. The applicant wants to make money. That's what they're in business for, and clearly constraints are not welcome. But I think it's time the council had a close look at what powers are available to it to maximise employment and minimise things like warehousing. So we're going to get OSB to have a look at that. In the meantime, yes, I will be supporting the application.
Any further comments? I think it's also fair to mention the planning gain, and that is opening up the river, which would be a huge benefit to the residents of Parktown. and me, and also the access and egress to the site will be the access and egress that's currently there in Windmill Road. So the only houses affected are those terrace houses in Windmill Road, where traffic will turn right straight on the Gypsy Lane and straight on the motorway, and I think that's to be commended. The recommendation is to approve. I'll move approval. Is that seconded? So we'll go to the vote. Eunice?
Yes, Chair. Starting with Councillor Agbley, please.
For.
Thank you. Councillor A. Ali.
For.
Councillor Bridget.
For.
Councillor Campbell. Councillor Franks.
For.
Councillor M. Hussein. Councillor Aliyah Khan.
For.
Councillor Masood.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
Oh, sorry. For.
Thank you, Chair.
So that's unanimous. It's carried. So planning permission has been granted, subject to the additional information and the delegated authority to deal with the other issues. Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll move on now to Manton Drive, 69 Manton Drive. So that is page 76. Nan Wang, please.
Good evening, chairs and members. For item 9, 69 Manton Drive, erection of single-story rear outbuilding, retrospectively. And the application was received follow an enforcement inquiry and the refusal of a certificate of lawfulness for proposed development. And the application is coming to committee because we received more than 4 support. There is an update report for this item and to correct paragraph 4 regarding to the planning histories. And the site failed to meet criteria for a single-story rear extension and the prior approval in 2015. On the report, it says it was an approval, so it's a correction. And the update report also clarified the number of support received on paragraph 12 and 21. We received total 18 support for these applications. However, 15 were published, and the other 3 are anonymous comments. Moving to the application, the site, next slide, please. And the site is a 2-story semi-detached dwelling located on the west side of Manton Drive and within a residential area. And the property benefit from a paved front drive and a large rear garden, and the garden level slopes down towards his western direction. And this also applied to the surrounding properties, which also considered to be a distinctive character with open features and enhanced appearance and openness of the area. And the site has been permitted with a number of development, including 2-story side and rear extension, single-story rear extension with raised patio area and rear dormer windows. And this development has increased the footprint of the original dwelling significantly. Next slide, please. The proposal would introduce an additional outbuilding with an overall footprint of 67 square meter, located right adjacent to the raised patio area. And the outbuilding is a flat roof structure. Next slide, please. It's a flat roof structure and would be used as a gym and home office. And the footprint of the outbuilding is much larger compared to the adjoining pair of semi-detached house and is similar to a 2-bed, 3-person residential unit. Next slide, please. That's the floor plan and rear elevation. Next slide, please. That's the Google image. You can see the gray area is the outbuilding. We consider, well, the outbuilding is a flat roof structure located on the lower garden level, and owing to his size and scale, it's not considered to represent a subordinate or auxiliary addition, but an incongruous form of development to the site. And furthermore, outbuilding established within immediate and wider surrounding areas are normally modest in scale and located to the rear garden and separate from the host dwelling by patio and garden or lawn area with a reasonable social gap. And the outbuilding with his significant size and located right adjacent to the rest patio area would appear permanent and is not keeping with the prevailing character of the surrounding area and will have a detrimental impact to the visual appearance of the area. And while we consider each application assessed on its own merit, and to approve this development would encourage similar proposal to be submitted, which would cause accumulated harm rather than improve the character and appearance of the area. And now we're moving to the implication to the adjoining occupiers. Next slide, please. Yeah, next, please. Yeah. The application was notified to 2 adjoining properties and 1 anonymous comment objection has been received. And we also received 18 support and 3 were anonymous. However, those supports are not from the adjoining occupiers. Owing to the scale and siting, we consider the outbuilding would have would be an intrusive addition when viewing from the rear windows of the dwelling house and garden area of the adjoining property, number 67 and 71, as well as some other surrounding properties. And especially to number 71, which has no development to the rear, the accumulated effect of the development from the applicant side, including the 2-story rear extension and the patio and patio area and the outbuilding, would have a detrimental impact to this property in terms of visual intrusion and loss of outlook. Overall, we consider the development would appear virtually intrusive and out keeping with the site and surrounding residential dwellings and result in a material harm to the appearance and character of the area. It is also considered to have a detrimental impact to the amenity of the neighboring properties. Therefore, the development would be contrary to the LLP 1, 19 and 25 of local plan. And therefore, refusal is recommended and reason for refusal is set within the body of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Nan. Is Michael Ainsworth online?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I can see you and hear you, just about. So the rules are you've got up to 5 minutes to speak in support of the application, and members may wish to ask questions after you've spoken. Okay.
Thank you.
So your 5 minutes starts when you do.
Thank you very much for taking the time to consider this application. Unfortunately, it's come before you because it was intended to fall under permitted development criteria. However, the roof was set at just over 2.7 metres, whereby a permitted development would have allowed up to 2.5 with a flat roof structure. As the planning officer stated, it has a footprint of 67 metres squared. Again, this would accord with permitted development, whereby it is less than half the area of the site, and our site area is 545 metres squared. Just to clarify, the roof is not an extension of the raised area, and although it's got a temporary barrier at the edge to prevent people falling, there will be no perimeter fencing. The proposal is also independent of any existing structure and has a gap of just over 150 millimetres. And just to clarify, planning policy does not set a minimum gap to allow consideration as an outbuilding. To clarify the sizes of the houses around it, number 65 on footprint is 143 metres squared. Number 67 is 125 metres squared. The applicant's house at number 69 is 117 metres squared. The smaller adjacent house at number 71 is 45 metres squared. However, it's got a separate structure to the side, forming a garage, and that's 35 metres squared. Then number 73 is 103 metres squared, number 75, 90, and number 77, 124 metres squared. So you can see that the houses are relatively large on footprint. The planner has raised concerns that the size and scale is not in keeping with the existing and surrounding properties. However, other adjacent properties are actually larger. So we would consider that the footprint is proportional and therefore modest. In terms of size and scale, the properties in the vicinity have similar outbuildings. These can be seen at Priory Gardens, Stratton Gardens and Westcourt Gardens. And at 320 Old Bedford Road, there's a property with a 100 metres squared outbuilding, which is greater in scale and ratio to the curtilage of the property than our proposal, and that was granted planning approval. These are all clearly visible from Google Maps. Due to its positioning, the structure is not actually visible from any pedestrian or public area, and as such has no detrimental effect on the street scene. The aspect from the proposal is away from the houses, and due to the topography as described by the planner, the structure is situated with a flat roof that is actually below the ground floor levels of the adjacent dwellings. This clearly makes the proposed structure subordinate and modest in height. The adjacent dwellings look over the top of the proposal. The planner's pictures are taken looking down onto the roof of the proposal, and as stated by the planner, the structure is only partially visible from the dining kitchen, and this can therefore only be the roof. I don't agree that this would be a sufficient detrimental impact to require refusal. This is demonstrated by the planner's own photographs, which are all taken from a first floor perspective. Reference to the impact from first floor windows carries less argument, as it could be argued that most properties are affected by single-storey extensions in properties even streets away. If the proposal was replaced with hard landscaped area, the view would be fundamentally the same when viewed from the elevated position. As such, we don't think it has any detrimental effect on the views, and this accords with planning policy on distances between windows and structures. It also prevents overshadowing and loss of privacy. The proposal retains the boundary fences and walls, further screening the proposal at the lower garden level.
You've got 1 minute, please.
It should be noted that the property historically had a number of outbuildings that were actually quite large as well. There was also a successful appeal, APPR 5510X10212139, which clearly stated, if when making size comparisons, it is noted the dwelling house, if the existing, not original dwelling house and the total internal floor area footprint that is relevant, not the original house size, it's what it currently is. The client needs the property because he's got he's got long COVID, and therefore he needs it as part of his job. His fitness is required to be fit. It's to be used as a gym and therefore is incidental to the property. Number 65 Manton Drive also tried to submit a letter of support, and that's been given to the planner, but they couldn't submit it.
Okay, can you wind up now, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so we'd just like to say that thank you very much for your time, and obviously the previous successful appeal says that the house as it currently stands is the area that should be considered, including all floors, not what the house originally was. Thank you very much.
Any questions to the applicant's representative? No, thank you very much. Questions to the planning officer? Asif.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Like you mentioned, we have one objection. That's adjoining property.
Yeah, it's from the adjoining property, but remains anonymous.
Any further questions? Any comments? There being no comments, then we'll go to the recommendation, which is to refuse. I'll move refusal. Is that seconded? We'll go to the vote, Eunice.
Thank you, Chair. Starting again with Councillor Adbley.
4.
Councillor A. Ali.
50-50 on this one, but I'm going to go against.
Sorry?
Against.
Against. Okay. Councillor Bridget.
For.
Councillor Campbell. Against.
Yeah.
Councillor Franks.
For.
Are you for refusal? Yes. Okay. So for Councillor Franks. For. Thank you. Councillor M. Hussein.
For.
Councillor Aliyah Khan.
For.
Councillor Masood.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Thank you,
And
Chair.
that's
That's carried.
unanimous.
Yes.
The
1, 2,
application has
3,
been
4, 5,
refused.
6, 7, 8.
Oh, sorry.
Eight.
It was
1.
Yeah. Bar one. Planning permission has been refused. Oh, come on. Yeah, planning permission has been refused, but the applicant does have the right of appeal. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to 2 Main Avenue, which is on page 101 to 112.
Thank you, Chair. This item relates to the erection of a 2-storey side extension, single-storey rear extension and front porch at 2 Main Avenue. Councillor Wahid Akbar requested this application be referred to the Development Management Committee if refusal is recommended. Given the nature of the proposal, no technical consultees were notified. 7 neighbours were consulted. To date, no representations have been received. In terms of the relevant site history, the site was granted planning permission for the erection of a single-storey front, side and rear extension in September 2021. Clive. Slide 2, please. The application site comprises a 3-bed, 2-storey semi-detached dwelling house of modest design located on the eastern side of Main Avenue, near to the junction between Main Avenue and High Street, Leagrove. The site benefits from off-road parking to the front, a side garden and large rear garden. These are the these are the existing proposed floor plans, showing the 3-metre 2-storey side extension with no subordination to the principal elevation nor the original roof form. Given the absence of subordination, the proposal would appear overly large, increasing the bulk and mass of the original dwelling house. Therefore, the proposal would not be considered sympathetic to the host dwelling and would materially harm the detailed design and character of the original dwelling. No issues are raised with the single-storey rear extension nor the front porch. And these are the proposed elevations. And Clive. Thank you. So this is the only property that would be affected would be number 52 High Street, which is the property on the right on the image there. This property is to the south of the site and would be materially implicated by the scheme given its proximity to the development site. Currently, there is approximately 11 metres between the north elevation of number 52 High Street and the side elevation of number 2 Main Avenue. However, the proposal would reduce this gap to 7.9 metres. Given the height, depth and lack of subordination of the 2-storey side extension, it's considered that the proposal would form an overly prominent development and result in the loss of outlook and visual intrusion to the habitable rooms on the northern elevation of number 52 High Street. Furthermore, the private amenity space of number 52 High Street abuts the development site of the 2-storey side extension, leaving only a 0.9 metre gap between the development and the amenity space of number 52 High Street. Clive. Thank you. Therefore, given the height and depth of the proposal and its proximity to number 52's amenity space, the view is taken that the proposal will result in material harm to the private amenity space by way of loss of openness and loss of spaciousness. And while it's noted that the existing amenities of the adjoining occupier of number 52 High Street is poor, and no representations have been received regarding the scheme, the council has a duty to consider any amenity impact that scheme may cause and consider this in line with planning policy, which indicates the strive to create well-designed places that protects the amenities of present and future occupiers. To conclude, the development would therefore result in an unacceptable impact on the character and appearance of the original dwelling, the street scene, and would result in a significant level of loss of outlook, visual intrusion to the amenities of the habitable rooms, and a loss of openness and spaciousness to the rear amenity space of the adjoining neighbour of number 52 High Street. On that basis, refusal is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We've got two speakers in support. Mohammed Abbas Shafi. Are you present? You've got on behalf of the applicant.
I'm here on behalf of the applicant and also Mr. Abrar of 50 High Street, the neighbour who's being affected.
So you're representing 2 Main Avenue?
I represent 2 Main Avenue and also 50 High Street.
That's not before us, is it?
It's representing 2 Main Avenue.
Yeah.
It's referring to a presumed someone's in support. I think John wants to say.
Just to clarify, the two properties, the application property and the property affected, are in the same ownership. So the two properties, have you got the site plan? This one here, right, you've got the application site and the neighbouring property, which is the one that officers have identified as being affected. They're in the same ownership.
My understanding is that number street.
They're in separate ownership.
There are two different people. They're sitting there.
Okay. The application forms and the application documents indicate there's a blue line around the affected property, which suggests it's in the same ownership. Are you saying that isn't correct?
They are both brothers, so they are in the same family, but they both have names on both properties.
So the two properties are in the same ownership, is what you're saying?
Yes, between the two brothers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you've got up to 5 minutes to speak, and I'll indicate when your time is up.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, a brief history. The owner's been here for 18 years, and he absolutely loves living here. It's a 3-generational house where his parents live with him also, as well as his children. Now, I'm going to give you a brief planning history and highlight to you the inconsistencies in how the application were followed. So, initially, application 10/00260 was for erection of 2-story side and single-story rear and front porch, which was permitted. Then Luton Local Plan 2011 to 2031, that came out in November 2017, but no planning policy changes were affected by that. This is what's been stated by the planning officer to the architect. Now, then another application has been highlighted already, 21/00735, that was also permitted, and that was erection of a single-story front, side and rear extension, which is currently valid until 10th of November 2024. This particular application goes all the way to the boundary where this is affecting the neighbouring property. Now, the current refusal is 2 reasons, really. One, as has already been stated, design and street scene, and number 2, impact on adjoining occupiers and amenities. Now, the erection of 2-story side and single story rear and front porch, the one that's been submitted here today, is set in by 900 meters to this planning one that's already been permitted. And this current proposal mirrors what was initially approved in 2010. So now this one is 900 millimeters set in. So therefore it has a less of an impact or effect on number 50. However, it's been stated by the planning officers that this is having more of an impact, or an impact that is unbearable to them. However, the owner of number 50 is here in support of the application. Now, when it comes to the policies itself, LLP 1A, preserve or improve the character, well, we feel that that is what's being achieved here if you permit this application. LLP 251, character of the area. Well, just to go through the area, and forgive me, I don't have the fancy Google illustrations as were previously highlighted, but number 4, they have a double-story side extension and rear. 6 has a double-story extension. 8 has a single-story extension. 12 has a double-story extension. 14 has a double-story extension. 16 has a double-story extension. Number 18A is a new house, a completely full house built there. Number 20 and 22 also have double-story extensions. So if this application is permitted, then it will be more in keeping with the area. LLP 25, Section 7, to be adaptable and flexible to accommodate changing living. Well, as I said, the family is growing, there's more people working from home and so forth, so they need the space, and they're fortunate enough that they have the means to carry the work out for themselves. And with this development, it will hopefully reduce any crime in the area by obviously building over this barren slash just land, spare land that is there, not being utilized currently. So I would humbly ask that you permit this application so the gentleman can go on enjoying living in this idyllic world whereby he has a 15-minute city where everything is within access to him, walking distance within 15 minutes, whether it's the schools, the shops on Marsh Road, the hospital, all the amenities he needs, including the park, and he would very much like to go on living here and pass it on to his children. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I'll ask a question in the actual agenda on site history. For the application site was granted planning permission for the erection of a single-storey front, side and rear extension in September 2021. Has that been implemented?
No.
Okay. Any further, Councillor Ali?
I just have a question whether on regards to whether you have considered a design change possibly in this application.
We'll be happy to accommodate any design changes that you require.
Any further questions, the applicant? Councillor Hussain?
Yeah, the only clarification I'm looking for is I mean, we got now where there is an impact of visual intrusion, yeah, which the officers are saying. We also got this one is confusing me. There's a bit that's already got a planning permission, yeah, which hasn't been implemented. Which one are we talking about would have a visual intrusion? And in light of what's been said, I mean, to the members here, the visual intrusion is something that, you know, the officers and members do when they visit the site. They can see it clearly if it is or it is not. So my thoughts would be that if it should be a visit by the members, so members can see whether there is a visual intrusion or there isn't. And for that, I would say that, you know, that would be I mean, I have a right as a member of the committee to ask any application to go to a site visit.
Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Chair. As far as I can make out, what's happening here is, I mean, to be honest, in terms of there was a application that's been approved back in 2010. So the time has lapsed. So I presume now, rather than throwing a new application in, I suppose the applicant should have actually renewed the original application, because I can't see any difference from, apart from setting it in by 900 millimeters, I can't see any other difference to this. And if both of the brothers are happy with it, I don't see where we're going to have any problems with this development.
Yeah, I think it will be difficult to visualise without the planning permission that's already been granted, because this is an addition to what has already been granted. Councillor Franks, did you have a question?
No, it's a comment.
Oh, yeah, we'll wait. No more questions to the applicant's representative then. Okay, then we'll go questions to the officer.
So do you know what the difference is between the application in 2010 to the application now?
So the reason that is not considered material planning consideration in the same sort of vein as the impact on the amenities is the new local plan was adopted in 2017, which and subsequent NPPF changes, which place a lot more significance on the preservation of neighbour amenities. And so we weighed that up as more a significant concern and consideration than the consideration of the 2010 application.
Yeah, Councillor Khan.
If I find that both properties, the adjoining property, from what I understand, is in the same ownership amongst the same brothers. What is the main concern in regards to an adjoining property occupiers when the adjoining occupiers are in agreement with it?
So we have to consider impact on amenities. The owner or occupier of a property is not considered significantly relevant to the consideration of amenity impacts. Just because a neighbour might support an application doesn't mean it would not have an impact on them. So we have to point those amenity impacts out, and as stated, that's we've weighed that up significant harm.
I think it has to be determined on its planning merits, irrespective of who the owners and other occupiers are. Sonny?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. The previous consent that members mentioned, that was for a single story side and rear extension. So this is two-story side extension, which is more of an impact. That's what the officers have considered and consider it unacceptable. In terms of your question, Councillor, about the impact on the neighbouring property, which is in the same ownership. So when we're making a planning decision, we have to disregard that relationship, because we are making a permanent decision, essentially, on a building or two buildings, that will have ongoing impacts regardless of what happens in terms of ownership on a property. So it's when you're making a planning decision, you have to disregard the fact that two properties could be in the same ownership.
Yeah, Councillor Bridgen.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, because there have been I'm looking at the history at the moment. There have been a lot of planning application approved. There was one in 2010, which was for a two-story side extension. Yeah. And my question is, it might actually be more appropriate. It might be directed actually towards Stephen. Is given that one was approved, would that have any material impact if there were to be an appeal? Is that not some kind of a precedent, or what's the?
in terms of impact on an appeal, the inspector will take into account the current local plan policies, but the decision in 2010 will have an impact, but its weight will be limited.
Well, it has been proposed by Councillor Mahmood Hussain defer for visit. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Yeah. Okay.
I did request a comment.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Then we can deal with all the comments except now, and then we won't have to deal with them when it comes back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have struggled to find anything wrong with this proposal, to be honest with you. The only thing that I can see that would probably not be acceptable under the current policy is that a side extension of this size would normally, you would normally be asking for a setback to avoid the terracing effect. And I'd be quite happy for that indeed to be asked for and for the plan to be amended accordingly. But apart from the setback that you would normally ask for on an extension of this size on the side of the house, frankly, I can't see anything wrong with it.
No, you've had your opportunity. We're not going to no cross-examination. Yeah.
That's why I need to clarify. That was incorrect.
Well, what was incorrect?
So he stated that the previous one is a single story and now there's a double story, so it has more of an impact. What he didn't clarify is that the single story went all the way to the boundary and the double story, which is being applied for now, is set back 900 millimeters, so therefore has less of an impact.
Well, okay. Yeah. Councillor Akbar, you indicated the right to speak. I'll let you speak now.
No, I have actually a couple of questions.
Yeah, you can speak now.
No, can I ask the question from the officer?
Well, it's just the right to speak is the right to speak, not cross-examination. You're not a member of the committee.
No, I know, but I think the question, I think the applicant should have asked from the officer, and I should have asked the officer.
Use that in your right to speak, okay? So do it now.
Okay, I think one thing which I would say, if the members are not making the informed decision, I would say that should be deferred as Councillor Hussain has recommended or proposed. But my view is, I think Councillor David Frank has also suggested that should have been asking setback rather than actually refusing the application. My point is that this application was approved in 2010, and then I don't see any major changes from the local plans from 2010 to 2018, and I don't see the logic. The other point I wanted to ask the officer, how much is the gap between the distance between 52 Lee Grave High Street and the property and the 2 Man Avenue? I think, and whether he has actually measured the impact of the light or any the negative impact you have measured. Can you tell us what it is? And that is not, and there is the other property which Mr. Abbas has actually mentioned. So many properties have developed.
Yeah, Councillor Akbar, it's no questions. You've indicated a right to speak, not questions.
So I'm speaking, Chair. I'm not asking. I'm not expecting any answer.
Only members of the committee can ask questions of the officers. Okay.
My colleague saying these comments.
You're speaking in support of the applicant. Okay.
Yeah. So what is the? Shall I carry on or what? Okay. The other thing is in the paragraph 7, the officer has said that the frameworks should actually making a decision positive and creative way and should work proactively with applicants to secure developments. And in this case, that has not happened. And I actually offered one of the officers I spoke to, and I said, the applicant wants to work with you and make the resolution. And that has not happened. And suddenly I received a call that this is going to the committee as I requested. I wanted to actually resolve out of the committee amicably, and that has not happened.
Have you finished?
Yeah, I think I support the applicant, and I think there is no injurious impact on the character or scene or amenities on that street. And there are so many dwellings have been extended, and this is no exception, and this should not be exception. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Alia Khan.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay. I think the observations from tonight's meeting is, and hearing all of the different details of the application, I don't see how the current application is any different to most of the street view. I would say it's pretty much similar. So I don't see a real problem with this application other than a little bit of a design technicality difficulty. But yeah, again, I don't see how this application is any different to how other applications have gone in the area.
Okay, was that a question to the officer or well, just a comment?
It was just a comment.
Okay. Councillor Franks and then Asif.
I really do not see what will be gained by voting for a site visit. What's required here is a deferment to seek amended plans showing the setback on the frontage that you normally would demand for a two-storey extension of this size. And if that comes forward, then frankly, I can't see anything wrong with it. Can't see the point of a visit. We want defer for amended plans to show the setback that you would normally ask for on the frontage.
Councillor Hussain?
I won't give a comment because I did ask for a site visit, so when one does site visit, one can comment.
Yeah.
Without that, you can't.
Yeah.
One needs to read the Constitution. The amendments I put to the Constitution was any member of the council or member of development control can ask for a site visit.
Yes.
That is all there is. There is no secondary, there's no nothing. There was one simple liner that is gone through the council and has been agreed by the council, and that is the constitution of this council, right? So I am quite happy if, to withdraw that visit but again, the only thing, the reason I said was that every member makes up his mind once they have seen itself the site. That's the only purpose, is because visual intrusion on the paper and going on the site are two different things. We have in this place for the last 25 or 20 years have made a decision once we gone to the official recommendation was refusal, members went on site, looked at it, and they did not agree with the officers. We make our decision on once we see the site, and that's the only reason if members want to vote on it without going on it. All I wanted was to clear that visual intrusion. Is it really or is it not? Because the officers are insisting it is, right? So have I made that clear? Yes. I don't need, there's no vote, there's nothing in there that was agreed by this committee to go to the Constitution. Yeah. Members can ask for a site visit.
That's right.
Finish.
Yeah. And the site visit
means...
No
vote. All right.
Everything has been said, and the right to speak has been exercised, and there will be no other applicant's representative who will make a decision when it comes back.
Please do not invent new rules.
No.
I do know what I proposed and what has gone
Correct.
through the council.
Stephen, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I don't think there is anything in the Constitution that refers to site visits. I do know that we have, certainly since I've been here, which is 7 years now, any recommendation put forward, whether that's to defer for a site visit for further information, as per the constitutional rules when it comes to the standing orders and full council, which is what this committee generally follows. If a matter is put forward, whatever it might be, approval, refusal and so on, it be seconded and then voted upon, whether that's a site visit or anything. So my view is, if you want a site visit, which has been, I believe, recommended by Councillor Hussain, and I believe seconded by Councillor Agnew, who's nodding, then that is the current motion on the table for you, which can be voted upon accordingly. Thank you. Oh, the second point, if I may, Chair. I understand what Councillor Franks means about the the setback, but as you'll all appreciate, it's not for us to amend their applications. If, however, members were, according to the head of planning, happy to defer for the setback, that could be done instead. So I've taken instructions from the head of planning. But in the first instance, you might want the site visit as it's being proposed and seconded in relation to what's currently before you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded site visit. We don't need to vote on it, do we?
Yeah.
Yes. We do. All right. Well, I can only take the advice that's been given me.
I've been on this committee. Anytime a councillor asks for a site visit, I think I haven't seen anybody voted on it. We just said, okay, we go to the site visit. I think this is the first, I may be wrong, but I think it's the first time we are voting on it.
I think members may recall that we brought a site visit protocol to committee, which members voted on, and it has been adopted. And that includes, from memory, any member can motion for a site visit. It needs to be seconded, but then the rest of the committee needs to vote. And if there's a majority in favour of a site visit, that's what happens.
Dance, but yeah. I'd like that to be written, seen in the air. I want to see it next time, Chair. Now I want to see it in writing, here, sent to us. Thank you.
Well, it's been moved and seconded for a site visit. We'll take the vote. That's the advice I've been given. Okay, Eunice, we move to the vote. So it's for or against a site visit.
Okay, Chair, can I come in?
Yeah,
yes.
Please.
Okay. Starting with Councillor Adbley again, for or against the site visit proposal?
For site visit.
Thank you. Councillor A. Ali?
Abstain.
Abstain. Councillor Bridgen?
Against.
Against. Councillor Campbell? For. Okay. Councillor Franks?
Against.
Oh, sorry. Councillor M. Hussain? For. Councillor Aliyah Khan?
For.
Councillor Masood?
For. To site visit.
Councillor Taylor?
For.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. So defer.
2, 1.
Defer to site visit, so it'll come back. I think it needs an officer present. It needs, yeah, it would need Johnny to do that. Okay, I think we've got one more to do. And that's page 90, 175 Della Road.
Thank you, Chair. This item relates to the conversion and change of use of a 3-bed dwelling house to 2 flats, 1 2-bed flat and 1 1-bed flat, and alterations to fenestrations at 175 Della Road. Councillor Mahmood Hussain requested this application be referred to Development Management Committee if refusal is recommended. There are 6 technical consultees that were notified. Only 3 responded. Environmental Protection raised no objection, but advised a noise condition, noise insulation condition, sorry. Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue raised no objection, and Local Highways Authority objected to the scheme on parking grounds. 5 neighbours were consulted. To date, no representations were received. And in terms of the relevant site history, an application for a similar scheme was refused in 2011. The application site comprises a mid-terrace dwelling house located on the southern side of Dalla Road, opposite the commercial trade park, which sites Gibbs and Dandy. The application proposes no significant external changes, and therefore is considered based on the principle of development, living environment, and parking issues. The proposed one bedroom and 1 2-bedroom flats is clearly inconsistent with the well-identified requirements of the borough. According to the latest data, there has been an over-delivery of these unit sizes within the borough. The proposal would also result in the loss of a much-needed 3-bedroom dwelling house, for which there is a greater identified need within the borough due to the limited number of 3-bedroom houses being built or delivered currently. The proposal would therefore lead to a loss of use for which there is a recognised local need. No information has been submitted regarding the total footprints of the flats, nor the sizes of individual bedrooms. Therefore, it's not possible to properly determine whether the flats would meet the nationally described space standards. In terms of the layout of the proposal, it's not clearly demonstrated how the flats would be split, as there is no clear division between the staircase between the downstairs and upstairs flats. And this is a particular concern given the planning statement notes that both flats would be accessed via the existing front door. On the same proposed ground floor plan, while all the habitable rooms in the site would benefit from appropriate degree of light penetration, the ground floor flat shows a wall to be demolished between the ground floor bedroom 2 and the open plan living room kitchen of the ground floor flat, illustrated by the dotted red line on the plans, which would result in the bedroom benefit from no privacy from the living room or kitchen. LLP 25 of the local plan requires that new housing should be delivered in accordance with the external amenity space standards as set out in Appendix 6 of the local plan. Appendix 6 sets out that for flatted developments, a minimum of 5 square metres of private outdoor space should be provided for 1 to 2 person flats and maisonettes, and an extra 1 metre squared provided for each additional occupant. And while the property does benefit from private amenity space to the rear, there is no information on how this would be utilised or split between the flats. Given the concerns in regard to whether the scheme would meet the space standards, with the additional concerns over the lack of clear separation between the flats and the issues in relation to the layout of the ground floor flat and the provision of amenity space, the view is taken that proposal would result in over-intensification of the use of the site, creating a poor quality living environment for future occupiers. The local highways authority objects to the scheme based upon the parking provision to the front, which would require the vehicle in this space to either overhang the public footpath or would require multiple manoeuvres to enter or exit the space to the detriment of highway safety. And the local planning authority raises concerns with the parking provision to the rear of the site in terms of how this would be accessed given the design character of the existing access to the rear of the properties, as well as the location and orientation of the rear parking bay within the context of the rear garden and rear access. To conclude, the scheme lacks an appropriate level of information to fully assess the implications of the proposal. However, the view is taken that the development would lead to a loss of use for which there is a recognised local need and will result in over-intensification of the use of the site, creating a poor living environment for the future occupiers. On that basis, refusal is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Councillor Hussain.
Can I ask in the thing that before I ask for a deferment for a visit is I'm not too sure about the access. How's the access is going to be there from the parking as well as the people going in and out of the house?
Yes.
So both flats are
the one. Sorry, Chair, interrupting. The one in the front is I pass Della Road every day. Is clear. The access to the vehicle from the back is not too sure, because that's where the car wash and all that is, and the tyre place. So I'm not too sure where the access.
Access to the flat?
Yes. If it is.
Doesn't have a front door?
So there is access to the rear.
It says in the report as well that you're not too sure.
There is access to the rear of the properties, and as I explained, it's not a tarmac or proper access. There's broken bricks there, and whatnot. So it's not considered appropriate to use that for parking in the LPA's view. Parking to the rear. Also, there's issues around the parking provision to the rear would also reduce the amount of amenity space in the rear garden. There was no information submitted really to properly consider those issues.
Well, I just asked that in the site history there was an application at this property for 2 one-bedroom flats and a single-storey extension. What were the reasons for refusal? Maybe before your time, but I would imagine similar reasons for refusal.
That is quite a while before my time, Chair. I'm not confident enough to give them to you now.
That's. I would imagine they're similar to the reasons for refusal this time. I'm only guessing, but anyway, that's not the one that's in front of us. It's the current application is the one in front of us. Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Khan.
So the access for the back property for the where the car's going to go in from the back, it doesn't look like it's going to be very effective. And also, I think as a council, we do absolutely need to protect family homes. So building flats diminishes that. So I think I would probably go with the refusal for this application, because purely on the basis that we need to protect family homes.
Yeah, one of the reasons for refusal is loss of a 3-bed house. Any further questions? Any comments? So the recommendation is refusal. Is that seconded?
Seconded, Chair.
So we'll go to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Starting with Councillor Adbley,
4.
Councillor A. Ali,
4.
4. Yeah. Councillor Bridget,
4.
Councillor Campbell,
For refusal.
Councillor Franks,
4.
Councillor M. Hussein,
Against.
against. Okay. Councillor Leah Khan,
4.
Councillor Mahmood, sorry, Masood.
It's getting late.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, it's getting late.
Councillor Taylor.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-1, Chair.
Yeah, so that's carried. Planning permission has been refused. And I think that's the extent of the business tonight. Thank you for attendance, and I'll see you next time.